All right, hello everybody. I'm Brian, and we're here at AMI Nexus 2026, Day 3. Brian McEvoy over here, our Chief Technology Officer at STERIS. He's a longtime AMI friend, and I think we spent a little bit of the last Nexus 2 years ago talking about a lot of the topics we're about to dive into. So it will be a fun comparison.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to this talk just because we can see how things have changed in the last
yeah,
2 years. But Brian, you gave two talks
yeah.
while we've been here at Nexus, and the first one really focused on uh, driving innovation in sterilization. So I think that's pretty on theme with what we're talking about. What has changed in the last 2 years. Tell me a little bit about that. Were there any highlights from that?
Yeah, I think we had firstly, great to be here with you again,
Always.
Brian. Um, yeah, I think the session was good in that we were a panel that covered quite a diverse range of topics. And like one of my co-panelists was actually talking about, implementation of innovation.
Hmm.
My own talk was probably more focused on, the more upfront needs identification, like trying to determine what are the topics that we need to research and innovate around? And again, important that we're at Nexus and we're talking a lot about standards.
Yeah.
Some of the examples I was giving was actually where we identified a need in terms of a definition in a standard. Um, you know, taking advantage of the life cycle of a standard, the fact that it takes a number of years through the revision process, and then synchronizing our research and efforts and publication efforts to try and educate and put forward a point of view that can be brought in a meaningful way onto the development of a standard.
That's interesting. So not just identifying from commentary within the community, oh, we're not aligned on the definition of X, Y, or Z,
Mm.
or there's a new understanding of some control.
Yeah.
It's now also commentary in standards in preparation for, say, a 5-year revision process can then inform research, which will then show up in the
Yeah.
future standard. That is a nice little cyclical process.
Yeah, the example I gave, and again, it was a very proud moment for my team that we featured in the bibliography of the revision of 11137 Part
Mhm.
1 that was published last year. And I think I was asked by the audience, what did that journey look like? And what I explained, it was somewhat of a 6-year journey that started with a question on the previous revision of the standard.
Yeah.
There was a particular criteria, threshold around activation testing on processing with accelerator radiation processes. And we asked the question, where did that figure come from? And, there was not a clear answer from the community.
Huh.
And we thought, okay, if there's not a clear answer, it's most likely there's not an actual publication or research
It was just a commonly used figure.
underpinning the number. And I subsequently
Interesting.
found out during the week the number was just historical because that was just the capability at the time of the technologies.
Oh.
And now the technologies have moved on more. So we actually published in AMI BI&T data we had over 10 years.
Mhm.
And we used that to then inform the comments that went into the revision of the standard. And then the number got amended to something that's now substantiated with a publication that's forever in AMI BI&T. So again, I think it was for us it was a great learning just to go on that journey and actually really work on something that was not contributing just to us as a business, but actually contribute to the whole industry.
Yeah.
And my team, as I said, we were all very proud, to get to the bibliography of an ISO standard is somewhat of a.
It's
I like to think it's a permanent record.
yeah,
It's a
it's
bit of a
an
legacy.
international
Yeah,
recognition of best practice.
yeah,
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about that too is that it kind of points back to even standards professionals who are not necessarily academics are using the scientific method. There's that question everything. Okay, this is a common knowledge. Why is it common
yeah.
knowledge? What's underpinning that? So that's a very interesting example, and I'm sure there's more of them just waiting to be discovered.
Yeah, we've actually got a piece of research that we've just finished again in the radiation space,
Mhm.
and again focused on text in the standard, and we have submitted to a peer-reviewed journal. And again, our hope is that on the next revision of the standard, that we'll have something published that we can bring to the table
Yeah.
and hopefully inform the future text. And again, it's for me, it just makes it very purposeful, like that, we're not doing innovation, we're not investing in topics without a substance behind it and a need,
Right.
because it motivates, the team that's doing the work, because the work's not easy, and the work takes quite a lot of time.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
innovation is not simple, and again, I think part of it is motivating the people that need to deliver on it. So again, I think if we pick the right topics, for the betterment of the industry, I think that's a really good beacon for us to follow to.
For sure. And you mentioned during that session, it came up multiple times of, okay, innovation's really good. Implementation of innovation is possibly the larger challenge. And it sounds like in standards, that's a great avenue
Yeah.
for implementation. Are there any other avenues that were discussed at the time of, okay, let's get innovators working X, Y, and Z areas?
Yeah, I think we covered a number of topics. And again, the second session, for instance, that I was involved in was the topic on EO. And again, we had multiple opportunities to better understand processes, have
Mhm.
better tools, for validating processes, and overall get better outcomes from the processes. And, for instance, on Tuesday, there was quite a lot of talk around parametric release. It's a topic, it's a word that's been around for a long, long time,
Yeah.
and it means different things to different people. Um, you know, but we've not made it simple. And in an era, when we can get so much data, so much digital information from our processes, we're highly motivated to try and simplify this. And I think there's ongoing research, certainly within my own team, but we're aligning with hopefully developments in the various standards, that hopefully, you know, make it more accessible, to do parametric release. And again, parametric release helps processes be more precise, more efficient.
Adds a new layer of data that,
Yeah, again, it allows you bring statistical tools in, and really have that rich data picture on the process. And again, being able to move away from reliance on microbiological systems,
Mhm.
get more data orientated, can only be a good thing.
We just were in here talking to the recipient of the Amy Foundation Award, the Kilmer Grant
Yeah.
this year, who is doing research on chemical indicators
Mm.
for parametric release, and as another tool in the box, right? Is that the kind of thing that we're looking at innovation wise?
Yeah, and it's great when you hear people working in areas like this, because, we too presented a poster at the Kilmer conference on work that we've been doing in CIs.
Hmm.
And again, I think the more the more effort comes from a wider scope of workers,
Yeah.
the more we can actually hopefully bring something to the table. And again, on the topic of chemical indicators, from our own experience, it was a tool that we saw of great benefit in some research, and now we just translate it across.
Commonly used in some areas, but
Yeah,
not others.
yeah. So we're now in a sort of translate across different technologies, and help us give better definition on processes. Again, reduce that total reliance on microbiological systems. So again, I think when you've got identified needs that are understood by the industry, not just by individuals,
Yeah.
it creates that community effort to try and find solutions to those needs.
What have you found that personally that drives I guess discovering of the needs, or a desire to discover those needs? Something that we've seen obviously on the ethylene oxide side is that there was regulatory drive, right? In 2024 there was something of a shakeup. But since that time, it seems like the industry as a whole has advanced in all areas, since everyone stopped to take a look.
Yeah, I mean, if I speak from our own experience, I mean, we launched our sustainable EO program
Hmm.
in 2018.
Which is
Um,
before,
yeah,
yeah,
I
well
mean,
before 2024.
it was, again, our motivations were, very much focused on having the best processes.
Yeah.
Um, and again, the mind shift is towards do what we need to do to provide sterility assurance. And yes, it's beneficial to have some level of conservativeness in that, but not excessive conservativeness.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we would learn a lot from the developments in radiation. Radiation has moved away from using a biological indicator. It's now looking at the product microbiological quality, making a process appropriate to what the product need is. And again, we try to take some of those principles across into other technologies. And again, when we've got developments and revisions in standards such as the EO residual standard 1093 part 7, again, the more future ready we remain to developments in standards such as that, by having the best processes that we can have, can only be a good thing.
Yeah, and it almost goes back to what you were talking about right at the start of this. Is almost that cyclical discovery-based science is inspired by standards revision, plugs back into standards revision, new standard over and over. That seems to be the right path forward.
Yeah, for me, the topic of implementation, what better way to guarantee implementation than
Yeah.
get a normative text in the standard?
Oh yeah.
It's what we follow as an industry. So again, I think, and I made a comment the other day, someone said how important standards are. I said, absolutely important. Because as much as they are, giving us that normative text of how we need to do things, the revision of standards, happen at a point in time. The next revision, gives us something directional that we can think about. Okay, the next period for revision on that standard, what are the areas we'd like to explore, research, bring new information onto the table, and help inform the comments that will then hopefully reach a consensus and land in new normative text in the betterment of the standard.
Yeah, I mean, it should be obvious, but it stands to say that standards are a snapshot of the consensus of the time that it was published, not necessarily right now.
Yeah.
So always keep moving forward.
No, and I think what's absolutely crucial to make all of this work is participation in standards development.
That's the key.
And I think, certainly for me, it's been a focus getting, many of my team now involved, because again, it shapes the thinking and the thinking around what areas to explore and innovate around.
Well, it's been formative somewhat for your career as well.
Absolutely.
You were the recipient of our first sterilization science award.
Yep.
Resulted in a PhD, a whole journey.
Yeah, no, it was, unfortunately, no awards this time around,
We can only give it to you once.
I'm not doing another PhD. So, no, I mean, for me, doing something like the PhD does certainly shape your thinking around things.
Yeah.
But I would say the involvement in standards development, again, gives that sort of framework of where to focus. And because as I said, like doing the research and publications is not easy and it takes time.
Oh yeah.
So invest in the things that are worth investing in, and the standards does help give that little bit of direction of where to go.
That's beautiful. I love to hear it. Brian, thank you for dropping by, sharing these, bits of wisdom that's what Nexus is about, bringing folks together and share all that.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Great to be here.
I appreciate you.